You are listening to SPN, the Sports Podcasting Network.
This is Soccer Today, live on SPN Radio, your new live show about the beautiful game in all its glory, with Duane, Rollins and Kevin Laramee. MLS, EPL, La Liga, Champions League, all is fair game. Powered by the Sports Podcasting Network. Visit us at sportspodcastingnetwork.com.
And good day, good night. Good night indeed. It was not a good night. It was a difficult night. It was kind of tough to fall asleep. And in beautiful words, like Daniel Squizzato mentioned on Twitter last night, Duane, it's the hopes that gets to you.
It's the hope that will kill you in the end, always, yes, for sure. I was thinking that actually in the last 20 minutes or so, as I was watching the game play down, that really it wasn't the fact that they were losing in the quarterfinals.
It was the fact that it almost scored 10 times in the last 15 minutes? Yeah. It was hurtful.
Yeah, Andre Blake no longer welcome in this country. But no, look, yes, we can get into the positives and we will, but certainly I think you start with the disappointment that there isn't a semifinal match to look forward to on Sunday. I was doing some texting back and forth. I'm still here, at my parents' house for a few days, but for Sunday I was going to head back and we were going to figure out where the viewing would be and all that sort of stuff. But then at the end of the night, the text went, well, I guess that's moot, at least with all that I got. So there will not be a Voyageurs viewing of the Jamaica-Mexico semifinal. But alas, at least we were in the conversation, and that's something to I think that you have to keep coming back to and remember the good in this tournament. And there was a lot of good in this tournament.
There was a lot of good, but let's just break down the game last night a little bit. After many days of thinking, Kyle Larin started the game. Zambrano decided to include him in the starting 11. And, well, Kyle Larin does what Kyle Larin does in the national team colors, which is miss sitters, Duane.
Yeah, the open header is the one that you're going to look back on. So you can look at a lot of those saves, and certainly the second save, that moving, floating 40-yard shot by Junior Gillette at the end of the game as well. But that open header right after is the 10th minute, I believe. There's only a few minutes after Jamaica had scored, against the run of play.
Exactly at the 10th minute. I just seen it in the screen in the background because, yes, I'm a little bit masochistic, and I actually plays the game in the background while I'm talking about it.
Yeah, it's that one there, that was the moment really as early as it was, and we didn't really realize it at the time. Well, maybe we did because it was like, okay, this is going to be one of those nights. And it's funny, when Jamaica scored the goal against, and that also was the first one. The second goal, I don't think we can do much about. You can just sort of stand back and applaud Jamaica's second goal. I'm speaking of, obviously, because we didn't have a second one. That was just a beautiful shot and a goal that wasn't going to be stoppable. And you can only just applaud that. But the first goal that they scored, that one was against the flow, as I said, and then for Lauren to not be able to equalize from a point-blank header, which is something that he should be able to do, is frustrating. But, I'm sure we're going to get into the Cavallini versus Lauren discussion here, and maybe we segue right to it now.
Maybe let's just talk about how Montreal Impact unfortunately had influence on this game, but it wasn't because of their player playing for the national team. It was because of their former draft picks and newly acquired player that haven't even started for them yet. First goal, Romario Williams, 6 minutes, 30 seconds in, on the run of play to the back post. Amazing shot. No way Poyan can save it. It actually rubs the inside of the bar before going in. 1-0 Jamaica. And then that second goal, like you mentioned, at the other cracker of a goal. And, well, it's 2-0 Jamaica. And two goals that are kind of related to the Montreal Impact. And that was quite the joke on social media last night during the game is how well the Impacts hate Canada.
Well, there you go. Yeah, look, the first goal, I've been having nightmares with that goal for a while. It was just the giveaway, and then a complete breakdown where they collapsed to the middle and allowed the wide open opportunity. And then, as you say, the shot ended up being, I don't know if it was perfect or if it was perfectly lucky, because it had a lot of power, but as you said, it grazed the bottom of the bar. And when I first saw it live, I almost thought he missed it. I thought he had skied it because it went so high, so fast.
Yeah, it kind of dipped. It was kind of weird for a shot. It seemed to have a lot of power, and usually we're used to the trajectory of that type of shot to continue climbing. So we're kind of expecting that climb. But when it actually went under the bar, we're all like, well, that's a goal.
Yeah, and it was kind of a shot in the heart, because I literally had, because I started to tweet again yesterday, I figured out some stuff that I needed to figure that out. Anyway, we'll leave that well enough alone. But I was just about to tweet, like, when did Brazil start wearing red? I was going to make a joke, because Canada was, controlling possession. They were creating opportunities. They just looked really good in that first 5 minutes of the game. And it, they, as I said, it looked like they were going to be on the front foot all night, and they kind of were in some ways. But I think tactically it became increasingly apparent that that's how Jamaica set up to play. But yeah, when that goal went in, it was like, okay, yeah, I guess we're still watching Canada.
But yeah, you're right. Jamaica might have played in the way to exert as well the players. It was an indoor game, so the humidity outside in Phoenix, and it's more the heat than the humidity, wasn't a factor because it's indoors. But still, in a way that Jamaica plays to maybe take advantage of what could be potentially an advantage for them, practicing in a different environment and having maybe a little bit better cardio than Canadian players. And we saw maybe that difference. But at the end of the game, Canada, when they were, first of all, Junior, let's go, Duane. This is probably one of the best goals I've ever seen a Canadian player score in a competitive game. Like, this is like goal of the week worthy type of shot.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I'll give you the goal that it comes to mind too, and it was Julian Business goal against Brazil, which probably earned him $2 million at TFC after the fact, which is, maybe another story altogether. But that's the last one that I can think of that was that sort of spectacular by a Canadian national team player. Yeah, to get back to the tactics, though, I absolutely think that if you look at how Jamaica played this, that they realized that what Canada wanted to do is they wanted to get in the front court, they wanted to attack from wide positions, they wanted to take runs at players to create the situation. They also looked at what Canada's weaknesses were, which I think is a lot of, they're not very fast on the back line, especially, right? So that, like, they're fast up front, they're not fast at the back, whereas Jamaica's strength really is that they have a lot of quick pace up front. So I think quite rightly they looked at this as a situation where, well, let's sit back, let's pack the middle, because they don't really have Canada. Doesn't really have a creative force in that 10 spot. I mean, Scott Arfield played very well kind of in that role, but I don't know if he's quite the guy that was going to completely break apart with precise passing.
A box-to-box number 10. You don't see that quite often, where he actually gets so forward that he's kind of like the 10 of the team, but he needs to track very deep to make sure that he's the 6 at the same time.
Yeah, precisely. Yeah, they just needed, who they needed? They needed a team Hutchinson, in my mind, because the team is precision passing. I think could have broken down, could have made that Jamaican pack middle a little less formidable. Because really, when you look at what Canada was doing possession-wise, they were creating a lot of chances. They were creating a lot of chances from out wide, but Jamaica was doing a very good job of packing the middle and preventing really clear shots on goal. That said, the Canada still got their opportunities, especially when Cavallini came in, and I think he did start to break it down and create more of a risk in the middle of the pitch, which forced them to open up, which then gave their wide players more opportunities. The bottom line is Jamaica, the game plan for it very well, and in the end, Canada needed to adjust to that, and perhaps, Zambrano, we've been very complimentary of him up until this point, but perhaps he should have adjusted to it a little quicker and realized that maybe Kyle Larin wasn't the player that was going to break them down through the middle. He just doesn't have that same sort of off-the-ball movement, that same sort of like dynamicism that can break down players that Cavallini seems to have.
Even more than that, I think Kyle Larin didn't have the momentum that the other team members had of that group stage, of that undefeated streak, of that new attitude. And now he comes into the group and they kind of have to catch him up to speed. They kind of have to, look, dude, we're playing really well. This is what we've been doing. It's been working. get with the program, but his instincts are maybe different. And I'm not saying it was a bad decision. We actually saw at halftime with adjustment made on the formation, adjustment made on how Canada was going to line up, made a difference. And in the second half, especially late in the second half, about the 70th minute on, after Junior Rollett's goal, well, Canada was going after it. Canada was having opportunity. Yes, Jamaica was tracking deep and staying really low, but still, Canada had a lot of chances post crazy saves. Andre Blake making maybe the save of the tournament by stopping a shot that would have made the game tied at like the 80-something minute with an amazing shot that literally was perfect. It was almost unsavable. And because of Andre Blake's skill set, he was able to get to the very corner of that goal at the right time with the tip of his fingers to keep that one away. And it was still, Duane, like at the end of that game, I don't think I'm alone. I kind of thought they were going to get it done. They were so close. They had so many chances. And of course, missed opportunities, a little off target. Things don't change that quickly, right? We don't go from being a minnow to being a powerhouse in just 3 games. Old instincts die young.
Yeah, look, you mentioned the whole that second shot. You talked about Lett's first goal and how it was maybe the prettiest goal you've seen in Canadian colors in about a decade, and you know I agree with that. But had the second shot, the shot that Blake saved, that somehow got to, had that gone in, that would have been, undoubtedly the best goal we've seen in Canadian colors in a while. That was a beautiful shot that was dipping and looked destined for the corner. But Blake, man, he's an athletic keeper and one of the best shot stoppers. He's probably the best shot stopper in CONCACAF.
No, true. But sorry, I was going to say Junior Rollett, though. Let's not forget how amazing Junior Rollett was. Best player for Canada last night, hands down. And I don't think it's a coincidence that his best game ever for the Canadian national team is against Jamaica, the other national team that he had eligibility to.
Yeah, well, he might have England too, but yeah, that one's probably never going to happen. Yeah, he certainly was in the last 30 minutes of that game everywhere, and the effort that he put in was something that no one can question. Our field as well. Like, I mean, no one can really argue with the effort that they put forth, especially in that 20 minutes. You can argue maybe with their finishing, certainly, and I know a lot of people are frustrated with Lauren, and there's people that were on my timeline last night calling for him, never be called back and stuff like that, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, which is like, come on, calm down here. Be realistic. He's going to be included in the fold, but I think not that I want to put more on him than what's due, but if he wasn't going to be arrested, if he wasn't arrested a few weeks ago, he would have been in the group stage. Things would have been maybe different. He would have been with the program. He would have been at the same place mentally than the other team roster. So maybe that would have been a difference, right? So I'm not saying it's on Laren, but I'm saying it was one of the factors.
I think what you see, and this is what Gold Cups used to feel like back before they had their little decade slump there, which sort of corresponded with me podcasting, so maybe it's my fault. Before that, we always see in Gold Cups, Canada would look a lot better than they did when they come in for World Cup qualifying or for friendlies. And the reason I always felt because of that was they had a familiarity with each other that built through the weeks they were together. They have a long camp. It's because they don't qualify for World Cups. They don't have that type of long camp except for at World Cups. And they always got better and better and better. And I think even though they ended up losing this Jamaican game, that last 30 minutes might have been the best that they played. They created, like I think we said a couple times now, 4 or 5 points shots. 2 of them that I thought on any other day might have went in. And I also looked at that Arfield when he broke through and turned around just at the very end of the 88th minute or so.
And well, just seeing Canada break through defenses and getting a through ball through like 5 Jamaica players. When's the last time you saw that? Just that aspect, I was like, geez, we're actually penetrating their defense. We're actually getting close to goal at the 88th minute. We're giving ourselves a chance at least.
Yeah, and that is where the positives come from. Look, as I said, the very last tweet I said last night was, I think anyway, the last one about the game was there's a goalkeeper stood and defended to steal a game for Canada. negatives of goaltenders in the still game in Canada because it lost ultimately. But you can't ignore the fact that they were producing opportunities. And if they have that familiarity, and I go back to this thing that I talked about multiple times now, and I know not everyone completely understands how it's going to work, and that includes myself right now, but this League of Nations thing is vital for countries like Canada, because if they can continue to play together and continue to have that familiarity, maybe they don't just gain a momentum during tournaments. Maybe they can then maintain it through international breaks if they're consistently playing, and they're consistently playing teams that they can play with. They're not flying to wherever, Austria, to play in a public park against Lithuania. As much as that can be funny, and we can have these bonding Voyageurs moments as we look for pirated streams that make no sense and have weird advertisements about Russian brides on them, as much as that can be entertaining from a Voyageurs perspective, I think we need to be playing games in, Vancouver against El Salvador, and Moncton against, St. Vincent and the Grenadines or whatever, right? Like
St. John's against Honduras, maybe?
Yeah, we could have.
Does that ring a bell to you?
Yeah, it does. Well, it does. I am old enough to remember it. Seems like
I am
dream
old
now,
enough to have seen it on YouTube.
There you go. With Paul James and Randy Savage holding the Canadian flag aloft amongst the pitch invading Newfoundlanders. Yes.
But if you truly know me, you know that Randy Savage is a totally different figure for me.
Yes, exactly. The fact that I just pulled that name out of my elbow without even hesitating.
Oh, out of your elbow? Come on, no, out of your dropping elbow from the third row. Yeah. It's Randy Savage.
Woo! No, that's not Rick. There you go. Yeah. Anyway, fun stuff.
It's Friday. Come on.
Yes, we have to have wrestling references, even though I don't really watch, but that's okay.
And nobody watches anyways anymore, Duane. That's pretty much the case.
All we do is complain about it on Twitter. That's my understanding of it.
Yeah, it's the new I don't know, cooler talk. It's the cooler talk is on Twitter, and you're bitching, think you're not watching, but somehow you always know what's happening.
Well, precisely, yeah. Well, I have a bad idea of what's happening usually. No, I don't watch it because I'm on Twitter during wrestling nights. And the wrestling nights, the funniest night is I think it's Monday when Raw's on Monday, right? And it also corresponds, one of the wrestling days corresponds with Bachelor Night too, so soccer Twitter is just bizarre on those nights at any rate.
No, it's kind of funny, and it makes sense because it's kind of like the national team. Just before this tournament, nobody watched, but we all knew what was happening. Now, at least with this performance, Duane, I think people have that pride back. I think that being able to be proud of your national team and their effort and the direction they're going in, that at least it's back.
I wasn't there because I am at my parents' house for a few days. But I was texting, as I said, with the people that were running the Poppers Toronto Voyageurs group in my absence, and they told me that there was more than 100 people at the viewing. So that, compared to the first game of the group stage where I was there and there were 30, maybe 25, 30, and they were mostly familiar faces, compared to the women's viewing that I organized less than a month ago where there were literally 4 of us. When you get to 100, it tells you the momentum builds. The last time they had numbers like that were the Mexico game in the Hex, in the Hex, I dream, in the semifinal stage where there was probably 200 or so there that night. That was obviously a very high game, and they had the big sell on BC place as well. So a lot of people were aware of it, but it shows you and it proves to you that as much as people like to say no one cares about Canadian men's soccer, they do. When they're given an opportunity to care, they care, and they will come out. And had they qualified, I have no doubt, because the conversations we were having is whether we needed to book a bigger room. If they made a final, then who knows? You probably have a couple hundred people trying to watch that game at a Toronto viewing party. And
which was more than in the stands. If you look, okay, the stadium is huge, and it looks like there's nobody there, even though there might have been a few thousand. But the majority of those people were coming in from Mexico, Honduras, after Canada too, because they're all dressed in green.
Yeah, well, or blue too, because Honduras have big export populations as well. But yeah, that's they hold those games. The reason the Gold Cup is in the U.S. all the time is because of the massive Latin American expat populations there. So Canada will always play those early games, and they'll always play them in big NFL stadiums with no one there. That's unfortunate, but it is what it is.
Yeah, exactly. Mexico won, Honduras 0. A little more difficult than expected for Mexico's, well, their C team against Honduras.
Yeah, Honduras gets through the tournament without scoring a legit goal. 3 on the score sheet, but not actually in the back of the goal. So, I was wondering today, in the back of my head, whether you'd rather be Canada or Honduras right now in terms of the long-term future. I mean, Honduras obviously still has games in the hatch, although they don't look like they're very likely to qualify at this point. I think Panama's probably going to nick that 4 spot, with Honduras being one of the unlucky 2 out. GT, obviously, the other one. So, yeah, I wonder which one you'd rather be. Because certainly Canada looked better in this tournament overall than Honduras did, even though Honduras did play the Mexicans pretty tough and did play defensively pretty solid. They certainly didn't look like they were producing much of anything, and they pretty much had their full squad there.
Duane, if it wasn't for French Guiana, they were not coming out of the group. It's kind of like that simple, because it goes from 3-0 to 0-0, which is a draw, which exactly. So they would not have necessarily had the performance just because. So they owe their presence in the quarters to French Guiana anyways, and I think justice was kind of done last night anyways.
Fair enough. All right. I sort of said in the lineup that we talked about this morning whether we name like Canada's player of the tournament, moment of the tournament, and maybe an area or a player that we thought might need some improvement or we might need to say goodbye to or something. So why don't we do that to end this? So who let's start positive. Who would your man of the tournament be for Canada in this?
Scott Arfield, hands down. A most consistent presence in all 4 games of the tournament in the midfield. Scott Arfield, from his own box to the opponent's box, from defending to attacking while creating. I think Scott Arfield has been man of the match, man of the tournament for Canada.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was leading to as well. The instinct will be to say Davies, and certainly he's the story of the tournament for Canada.
He's the most goal scorer per excellence for Canada. He's the best one on the score sheet, but this was created in ways by Arfield as well. If it wasn't for Arfield, there would not have been 3 goals for Davies. So you do have that sense that Davies was a result even of Scott Arfield's play.
Yeah, if I was going to do this hockey style and do the 3 stars of Canada for the tournament, I might go Arfield first star, Davies second star, third star. I'd hesitate between either Colette or Borjan. Maybe Borjan.
Yeah, I would go Borjan.
Was better for.
Yeah, Borjan, even against Jamaica last night, like at the 15th minute or so, Maddox was coming on the flanks and alone on goal, and Borjan found a way to save that shot and kept Canada only 1 goal behind with hope, which at the end killed us. But hope was there, and that's because of Borjan.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I mean, you're basically a bit of a recency bias there. Although
Hullet was at a best knockout game, but Hullet during the group stage with Canada's squad rotation too, Hullet did not need to have the type of performance that he did last night. So I think Hullet is the man of the match last night, but I think even he'll be top 5 maybe in the tournament. But still, it's progression. We see why now it was important a few years ago. We're all freaking out if you're going to decide to be Canadian or not. I think now we understand his true value for the national team after not necessarily seeing him a lot over the last 2 years.
Yeah. Oh, look. I always understood his value. I mean, he was a player that we couldn't afford to just ignore. He's playing at a decent level. Even if he's not playing at the highest level, maybe we thought he might have been back in the day. It's still a player that obviously has talent, and we saw that last night. And he still has some contributions to give. And again, can't stress it enough. If they can consistently play, and this League of Nations thing seems to be the answer on how that might happen, then maybe I think we'll get to understand that value a little bit more, and then hopefully Canada can push that ranking up to get into the top group so they can be tested against those best players sooner rather than best teams sooner rather than later. All right, Kevin, what was the moment of the tournament from a Canadian perspective?
Moment of the tournament for me is the first game where they won 4-2 against French Guiana, because it was 3-0. We're all like, oh yeah, this is amazing. And then what usually happens in the Canadian soccer, well, we got scored 2 on, and now it's just 3-2. And what's going to happen? Davies delivered us. It was I don't remember if it was Davies, but anyway, it was 4-2, 2 goals for
Davis
Davies.
scored fourth goal. Yeah.
Yeah, Davies
Yeah.
scored a 4th goal. I knew it. So you have that sense of, well, maybe things will be different. Maybe this will be different. Because what if would have lost or tied that first game after winning 3-0? We would all have freaked out. We would all have been, it's the same thing all over again. Zambrano, Floro, same damn thing. But no, that difference was the 4th goal. That difference was the mentality to finish the game, to finally hit that nail in the coffin, that killer instinct, that young kid scoring a goal on board for Canada and the raw enthusiasm that came with it. That moment for me, that 4th goal of the first game, that win against French Guiana, is for me the moment of the tournament for Canada where we realized that this one feels different.
Yeah, look, and that's not a bad shout. With honorary mention, I'll say Junior's goal and your goal last night could get up there as well as a nice little nod. But I'm going to go with Davis's goal against Costa Rica, the goal that gave them the 1-0 lead, because it's Costa Rica, and that's the team that going into it we sort of dreaded. We had the result against French Guiana. And I'm going to keep using we because I am Canadian and I can use we when I'm talking about a national team. We didn't know quite what they were because it was French Guiana. They go against Costa Rica. They get the lead, full measure for the lead, full measure for that draw. When Davis's goal, that speed versus speed he had, that ability to read the play and to know that the fullback he was up against wasn't really aware of his presence, and to run into the right space and to finish it. Because that has been Canada's Achilles heel for years. That to me was the moment of the tournament for the Canadian national team. All right, so I guess if you start positive, you have to end negative. What's the one area of improvement that you'd like to see moving forward for this team?
Does 65 minutes count as a player that needs to wear the dunce hat for his performance in a tournament for a team? If so, Cal Aaron is my dunce hat wearer. He is the one that I feel could have made that quarterfinals into a semifinal last night. If you would have buried one of those chances, it would have been a totally different story. A striker needs to score goals in a national team level, knockout stage level, quarterfinals level. Well, if you don't score, your team's probably not going to win. It's almost that important. A striker needs to score. A game a goal average is pretty much what a striker needs to do in an international tournament level to give his team a chance to advance. And last night, Caroline did not continue the job that was done by Canada in the group stage, and they weren't able to put a few past Andre Blake. Yeah, it's not easy. Andre Blake's quite the goalkeeper. But in the words of Zambrano, if you want to be up there, if you want to beat Mexico, if you want to be United States of America, you have to win those games. And Kyle Aaron could have won those games for Canada, and he didn't. So I think he's my disappointment of the tournament.
Yeah, or just the fact that he couldn't be there because of what happened before. And I don't want to dwell on that too much because, there's going to be another, he's already served his time in terms of his suspension. Legally speaking, there will be another punishment that will come down the line at some point, and hopefully he learns from that. But in terms of his play, I will, not scoring that open header, as I said, that was kind of the moment that we really look back and lament the most. I mean, that wasn't Blake standing on his head. That was Lauren missing an open net. And that's, the difference between penalties. I don't know if people realize it would have went straight to penalties. It wasn't extra time, which, who knows, maybe they lose the penalty shootout anyway, but still, it would have been nice to have the opportunity and the way that game ended.
Yeah, because there's another game after, and they couldn't really afford to play a full extra time.
Yeah, so it just would have went straight to penalties. But at any rate, so Lawrence is not a bad shot again. Look, I'm not going to give it to a single player. I'm going to give my needs improvement, dunce cap, whatever you want, to just the lack of development of central defenders and truly athletic defenders, which is something that Canada used to really, really be a strength of. It used to sometimes be their only strength. They had big, the Kevin McKennas of the world, big, strong guys that could sort of keep the ship in order when everything else was breaking down. It seems to have gone full the other measure. And look, I think guys like Steve Victoria and that, they did their best. They worked their ass off during the tournament. They played all the minutes, but it really illustrated how little they have back there right now. And, You go back to Jamaica's first goal last night, and that's a breakdown in defensive understanding. It's a breakdown in defensive athleticism, and it's a breakdown in sort of defensive, abilities to read the play and so on and so forth. And even further into the tournament, you look at the Costa Rica goal, which is a set piece. When did Canada give up set piece goals to Central American teams? That's not supposed to happen. We're supposed to have that physical advantage and that ability to defend those set pieces in a way that the smaller, more technical nations through the years cannot. Now, obviously, there's been evolution down there, and they defend them better and they attack them better than they maybe did 20 years ago, and it's not a sure thing in any way. But I think that's really the area that clearly needs to be improved the most moving forward. And I don't quite know where the answer is here. Maybe, if Daniel Henry could ever get healthy again. He's disappeared off the map because he hasn't been able to stay healthy. That might be an answer back there. I know there's a lot of people that spit their water out on their phones when I said that, but I've seen that guy at his top level is as athletic as they come. Whether or not the injuries have destroyed his career, I don't know yet. But yeah, we're going to need to find and need to develop some defenders that can compete with athletic countries like Jamaica. Otherwise, always going to be vulnerable to goals like that first one last night, Kevin.
No, exactly. All right, Duane, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll turn our focus back to clubs, back to Major League Soccer with our games of the week.
You are listening to Soccer Today, live on SPN Radio. Visit sportspodcastingnetwork.com for more.
And we're back. Just before we start looking at the games starting tonight, Duane, it was announced yesterday too that video review, we knew it was coming in the second half of the season. Well, we actually have a date. August 5th, video review, video assistant referee will be applied to the entire Major League Soccer.
And August 6th will be the first time that someone that was previously really in favor of it goes, this isn't as good as I thought it was going to be. And we all know my opinion on this, so we'll just let it play out at this point. But yeah,
what if it's the opposite though? What if it helps with, I don't know, maybe after the fact? I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, because my opinion has been stated. If they prove to be better than I think it is, then I will apologize. But I have fears. We'll just leave it at that. In terms of the games of the week, we'll start with Toronto, I guess. And is there a greater must-win for a team, even though they're undermanned, than playing the winless on the road Colorado Rapids, the impotent Colorado Rapids at BMO Field? You have the immovable force of the undefeated TFC at home against the what's the rest of that saying? I'm losing my mind right now.
It's the irresistible force, meaning the immovable object.
Okay, yeah. So the irresistible force of Colorado losing on the road versus the immovable object of Toronto winning at home, undefeated versus winless. So does that mean Toronto's doomed?
In years prior, yes. If you're looking at the Canadian national team, yes. This is Toronto. This is where the money is. This is, well, no Bradley, no Josie. But you got Javinko. You got Vasquez. You pretty much got all you need to go over Colorado.
Might have Javinko. I mean, the man is made of glass and he has bruises on his back.
True, but you might still have the pieces needed without Javinko with just Vasquez to get over Colorado.
Well, we saw it against New York. I mean, look, they got it at the 2-2. We talked about that on yesterday's show. It seems like it's such a grind for this team. It seems unbelievable scheduling this year, like how they can possibly be playing again. But here we are at last with all this short-sightedness. But if they can get the result, and they should be able to get a result against Colorado. I mean, it reminds me of that DC United game a few weeks ago when they were in the middle of the Canadian Voyageurs Cup situation, and they had a lot going on, a lot of sort of illness. There wasn't like international missing, but there was a lot of injury missing at that point. And they managed to gut it out against a really bad DC United team. And I think that's probably, if you look at this objectively, they should be able to gut it out against what is, I think, a pretty poor Colorado team. A particularly a Colorado team that really shouldn't cause them much of a problem at all in terms of scoring. So as long as they can find one goal, and they seem to be able to produce goals with anyone out there, then they should be able to get the result in this game, Kevin.
Yep. So we have tonight Orlando, Atlanta. Then tomorrow, NYCFC, Chicago. Chicago on the road could be dangerous. Chicago, one of the best teams in the league, leader right now for the Supporters Shield. Minnesota, Red Bulls, DC United, Houston. You mentioned TFC, Colorado. Columbus, Philadelphia, Philly, looking for a rebound after loss to Montreal midweek. Montreal at home for the second time this week versus FC Dallas. Duane, Montreal will have probably very, very high probability Nacho Piatti back with Lawrence Zamali. This could be a dangerous combination. Montreal is slowly getting healthy, finally, so we'll see if they can maybe pull an upset, because even on the road, FC Dallas is one of the best teams in the league.
I maintain that despite their somewhat slump in terms of their points this year, though they're still solidly above the red line, that Dallas is, along with Toronto, the favorites right now to win the MLS Cup. They have to be, based on the talent on paper. We can. I'm not dismissing Chicago's accomplishments so far. I'm not dismissing the skill level that's out there for some of the other top teams. Not dismissing the possibility of a team like Seattle rising back up again. They seem to have turned around a little bit in the last little while. I'm not dismissing any of that. But when you look on paper, the two best teams in this league by far seem to me to be, talent-wise, seem to be Dallas and Toronto. And so, yeah, you're right to say that it would be it's never an upset when you win at home, but it would be not an upset if Dallas were to win, if that makes sense.
And Montreal needs to put a few victories in a row if you want to climb that standings. You want to bridge that gap earlier rather than later, because time could be missing. It's enough point that it's going to take you a few wins combined with a few losses to bring that gap down to manageable distances. So if Montreal gets a second in a row right now, this might be helpful. All right, New England Galaxy. Galaxy are terrible. Once again, I wouldn't be surprised if the Revs actually win at home against Galaxy.
LA is the story to watch right now. And of course, with the transfer window being open, you would have to think that there won't be long before they try and pull the trigger on something. But maybe, with that, again, we talked about this yesterday, with LAFC coming in, I didn't call them LA2 this time. That's an accomplishment. With LAFC coming in, then maybe there's that little bit of leverage. And I think agents have to be aware of that. Players might not be aware of it. In fact, I guess that most players aren't aware of it. But their agents sure as hell are, because right now you can go down. They're having a crap season. So you want us to come in and help. You didn't have to pay me. And we have this other team coming in LA if we want to go to LA. So we're not stuck between a rock and a hard place from the player's perspective. So I think that Galaxy could be in trouble when it comes to adding players this offseason because of that sort of factor that's out there.
RSL Kansas City, a surprisingly battle for two teams in forms in the Western Conference. Vancouver, Portland, Cascadia Derby. Can Vancouver continue their streak last week against LA? Can they do the same tonight against Portland? Tonight, I mean Sunday, actually.
Yeah, Sunday. Yeah. I wouldn't, again, Vancouver has impressed me over the last little month or so. I don't think I'd written them off, but I didn't quite know how to make them. But they seem to have demonstrated in the last little bit that they might be a true playoff team. And Portland is a team that I can't ever get a handle on them. They seem to, on paper, and they were one of the preseason picks for MLS Cup by a lot of people, they seem on paper to be quite good, but they never seem to be the sum of their parts. And I don't quite know what that is. Obviously, they won the MLS Cup a few years ago, but I don't necessarily look at MLS Cup winning teams when they come out of low seeds as necessarily being the best teams. I look at them as getting hot at the right time. And I don't think I'm alone in that opinion. Seattle, at any rate. But nonetheless, it's hard to see that one. But I would put Vancouver as a great chance to continue that streak. And I do think at this point in time that they are a solid playoff team.
And there's the last MLS game of the week is Seattle San Jose, but we do have Costa Rica, United States semifinal of the Gold Cup on Saturday. Interesting matchup here. Costa Rica, United States. This one could be, very interesting. And the other semifinal is Jamaica, Mexico. Duane, who do you have in the Gold Cup semis?
Well, I got to go chalk. I mean, I really do. I give Costa Rica a chance, but certainly with the additions the United States have made, with their ability at home to get results. They are very good at home, particularly in the Gold Cup. This does seem destined for a Mexico-U.S. final. I wouldn't give Jamaica much of a chance against Mexico. Maybe. I don't think that I give them a 10% chance because there's always a puncher's chance, right? In terms of Costa Rica, the U.S., I'd give it more 60-40 or maybe 70-30 for the U.S. to win that one. But we're likely looking at a chalk final here. I wonder from a TFC perspective how many even American-leaning TFC fans aren't cheering for Costa Rica on Saturday, though, to try and get them back a little bit early because we're a little sick of the international breaks. And, of course, we're going to go 6 weeks and have to deal with it again.
That's absolutely true. All right, that will wrap up the week here on Soccer Today. You can follow Duane on Twitter at 24th Minute and myself at Kev Laramee. Stay tuned to the Sports Podcasting Network for coverage of some Major League Soccer game tomorrow. I'll be at the Montreal Impact FC Dallas game, gathering some audio after the game as well. And you can follow my Twitter to get some updates on other games and everything else that's going on the network. And as always, until Monday, I'm Kevin Laramee. And have a great soccer. You were listening to SPN, the Sports Podcasting Network. Visit us, sportspodcastingnetwork.com.